subcommittee meeting for the board agenda of May 5th. And we have Trustee Prasad and Trustee Zhang with us. As just an opening remark, Trustee Zhang is working to address a technology issue with her computer and camera. Hopefully we'll have her on camera soon, but she is with us. And Rais was not able to stay on the call due to some connectivity issues. We're hoping he'll be back joining us soon, as well as student board member Zion Khan. So with that, I will turn it over to our trustees to start our meeting.
Okay, thanks, Superintendent Kamek. So let's start with, are there any public comments?
I did ask Rais before he dropped off because he said that he was having some connectivity issues. I quickly asked him if we had any public comment, and he told me that he had not received any public comment, and I have not received any either. So no public comment at this time.
Okay, sounds good. Then let's walk through the list. So going through the consent calendar, section 10.1. Now I don't have the online version. I'm looking at the paper copy I received on Friday. So if there are any changes there, please let me know. If I skip something. On 10.1 with the supplemental novel adoption, there's no budget impact of this, right? Or the budget will come from the discretionary funds?
Yes, so the budget impact is there, but it comes out of budgets that are already allocated to school sites as part of their discretionary funds. So that's how the books are purchased.
Okay, so is there kind of some estimate of what that number would be across all sites? Or?
I'm sorry, you were saying, is there an estimate of what that number would be?
Yeah.
I'll have to ask our staff to follow up with that. I think it will ultimately be dependent on how many copies of each book a school may be purchasing. So the number may vary a little bit, but I'll follow up with our staff and make sure that we have that information for tomorrow night.
Okay, sounds good. Then the next one that has any budget implication is the 10.3. Did we change that already? The 1.0 FTE for counseling enriched teacher.
So that is still there. That's 10.3. That's the same. Okay. And that is a special education mental health funding. And that is a fiscal impact, which is why we're bringing it forward to the board.
Right. And we moved it from regular to consent here based on the dollar amount.
Yes.
Okay. And then the next one, 11.1 is a report, right? So is there any sort of negative finding in there, or is this a pretty standard report?
It's a pretty standard report. Director Lynch McMahon, did you have any input or summary on that report?
No, this is just our regular quarterly report that we provide to the board. The actual audit was completed in March, and that was presented to you all last month. And that was, okay, blemish free. We were, spot on. So this is just a
the formal report
follow up.
What was
exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay, that's good. Okay, then 11. So custodial supplies, that's some small amount, right? This is 11.2 for the coal supply company. There's no amount listed here. This is just a contract and the purchase orders happen when you need supplies. Is that how it is done?
Yes, I believe that this is something that's permitted under the current contract. And so what is being asked is approval of that extension to allow us to continue ordering our custodial supplies from Coal Supply Company for another school year. And we will order those supplies as part of our annual budget process.
Okay. Now, how often do you review the supplier? This is a 2-year term extension. So does it just happen automatically, or did you look at alternate suppliers as well as part of the process, and this company is still the best to continue?
I'd have to defer to our business team. I can't really answer that in the moment, but my assumption is that this is something we do every few years, and that they still think that this is the right investment to extend by 1 year. I don't know, Rais or Robbie, if you have any insight on how that contract procurement is happening, or if we want to follow up with Elaine.
Actually, go ahead. I'm sorry, Robbie.
Oh, I don't have any insight to. Lelaine would be the best person to answer that question.
I can
And
offer.
neither do I.
Yeah, I can offer some input. I just had a conversation with her regarding some of our vendors that we're using on the modernization program. And they are required up to every 5 years to go out and solicit new services. But the Fremont has a policy where it's every 2 years we seek solicitation. But in this particular instance, she's requesting for a 1-year extension because we have had extenuating circumstances, and the volume of orders that we have with regard to a lot of the PPE and the preparation for fall. She's asking to just extend it a year, and then we'll go ahead back out for request for proposal next year, just so that we can have what we need in time for fall. So I hope that's helpful.
No, that's helpful. And I see in the requirement that they maintain the same pricing as the original bid. So at least we are price protected. So I don't have any further questions on this one. Then 11.3 Millennium Consulting. This is just a standard next phase, right, of this project?
Correct. Millennium Consulting is just going to be continuing their services for the monitoring of the Rick Sprinkler project.
Okay.
Hello, sorry. I gave up on showing up in camera. Okay, but can we go back to the, let's see, 11.2, the schedule? What's that, 11.2, right?
Yeah, the coal supply company for custodial supplies.
No, is this, sorry, revenue and fund. And that's a big chart, 11 point. I see, Kelly, you put some, sorry, I'm just going randomly. Program contingency fund. You know, that's on which
Yeah, that's 11.3. So that's what we are on now. Yeah, that's what we are on now.
You're right now? Okay, good. All right.
So I mean, this one is for the Rick Sprinkler project, and this is just the amendment is for the next phase of the project.
Correct.
Yeah. So you have any questions on this, Trustee Zhang?
No, I do not. Well, actually, I have a question on 11.1.
Okay.
And Kelly, you have this contingency fund. Can you explain to me? I mean, that's increased from 3 million to 6 million, right? A program contingency increase from 3.4 million to 6 million is
okay. So that is the overall Measure E program contingency. And what happens with that fund is any funds that we receive that are reimbursements from the state, they actually go back into that program contingency fund. And that is why you see that increase. And then if there's any projects that have closed out that have funds that were not spent or needed for any particular scopes of work, we then return it to the main program contingency for it to be redistributed to other projects at the board's recommendation. So that's why you see that particular fund increasing like that.
Mhm.
And it is a fund that is used in the event other projects go over budget and there is no additional funding available that has been allocated. We then petition the board to then utilize funds from that pot of money to offset any expenses within the Measure E program.
I see. So then, the Brookwell and Warm Spring and the Irvington. And those money, those project is not from Schedule E?
Every project you see on that report are projects that are part of the Measure E program. And so as you can look at the report, it's broken up into an overall summary sheet on the front. And then the projects that are actually in progress are identified with their approved budgets and the work, or I should say, amount of money that it costs to complete those projects are identified. And those projects that are completed are also identified. And then those projects that have not been funded, meaning there was not enough money in Measure E to actually start those projects are also identified with their prospective budgets at the time that they were identified to be part of the program. So any monies that you see identified there, the 650 million is accounted for in the projects that are completed, as
Mhm.
well as the projects that are in progress.
Right,
And so I hope that answers the question.
I think so. All
Okay.
right, thank you.
Yeah, so Trustee Zhang, this was a report that we had looked at earlier in March, and this is just a formal report. At that time, we had a presentation on this, and now this is the formal report to approve. Okay.
Mhm.
So then let's see, moving on to, so we have the classified personnel actions 12.1 certificated, and then classified, and then classified layoffs. So these are standard things. Any specific questions on this one? Or anything extraordinary?
But
that
I'd
we
be
could
happy to answer any.
Kelly, I think you may have frozen. If you need to jump off the call, go ahead and I'll let you back on.
Okay, yeah, I thought it was me. Everybody else was frozen as well. Okay. Okay, you were saying something.
Oh, I was saying if you all have any additional questions, please feel free to write them down and I'll be happy to give you guys much more detailed answers if possible. I apologize.
Sounds good, thank you. So then for the next section 12, is there anything extraordinary here, or do we need to go line by line?
No, I don't see anything extraordinary here in terms of our normal personnel actions. I think the only thing of note that would be different is you do see on our certificated personnel action a number of reduced workload programs. And so for those who may not be familiar with it, it's sometimes often also referred to as the Willie Brown provision. And it's a provision in the Ed Code, which provides the opportunity for certificated employees to work part-time and receive full-time service credit if they've met certain other criteria in the longevity of their career. So this would be the time where we see those requests come forward and bring them to the board, because they include a leave of absence request for the counterpart of their FTE.
And when you say full service credit, this is the number of years served in FUSD?
Yes. So for example, a teacher has to be of a certain age and have a certain number of years within the profession. And then they're able to qualify for the reduced workload program. And what happens there is they're able to work less than full time, but they're able to earn a full year of service credit. So maybe they work 60% schedule, but they're awarded for a few years of full time of service credit.
Okay, and what does that translate to in terms of the benefits? Is that the accrued vacations, accrued sick leave, and accrued pension, or what? How does that impact?
It impacts the district financially in the sense that they're earning, really the impact is in terms of their retirement. So in order to retire in the STIR system, you either need to be a certain age and or have certain years of full-time credit. And so this provides them that year of full-time credit, even though they're working part-time. Our salary to the employees is adjusted appropriately for their FTE, however. So if a teacher's working 60%, their salary is adjusted appropriately to 60%.
And our pension contributions are adjusted accordingly, or?
The pension contributions, I don't know if Robbie or Rais can clarify that for me. I believe that they're all adjusted accordingly, but I'd have to double check.
Okay. Okay, I mean, this is a good perk to have for.
Oh yeah, that's another benefit, right, of of being a teacher, extra benefit besides all this retirement fund. Retirement benefit, and this is additional benefit, right?
Well, it is an option for our teachers. Only some of them meet the criteria, and some teachers are able to make this adjustment because they may be able to have a circumstance personally where they can take the decrease in wages, but not all of our teachers are eligible for the program. Rais or Robbie, did you have any further info on the STIRS contribution piece for us?
None that I have, sir.
Okay.
Okay, that's fine. That's good to know.
Okay, so then let's move on to the regular agenda. Future return to in school, there's no budget impact for that to discuss yet. Then climate emergency. So then the first one where there's any budget impact is 15.4. So expanded learning opportunity grant. So how does this thing work? I didn't get to read this in detail.
Well,
So
I
this
have
is
yes, please, CJ, go ahead. I have another question.
okay. So this is the money that we are eligible to receive from AB 86, remembering that there were two allocations of dollars there. One was the incentive to return in person, and we did not earn that money. The second is the provision of dollars for expanded learning opportunity grants that are part of AB 86 and part of the new revised ed code. Our dollar amount in Fremont Unified, perhaps Rais or Robbie can confirm this, but I believe we're just over $20 million in what we're receiving in that allocation.
21.6 million.
21.6. Thank you very much,
6
Rais.
million, yes.
And those dollars have to be expended with an alignment of the provisions of AB 86, and it requires a board approved plan. And it also requires community and staff input. So we've sent out a survey. We've also reached out, and myself and the assistant superintendent met with some student representatives. And we're taking that information. And this agenda item is part one of two. So in our meeting on Wednesday night, we'll have a presentation and an opportunity for board input, board direction, board discussion, obviously public input as well. And then we'll take all of those things and refine them into the final draft of the plan to be approved at the next board meeting.
So here the dollar amount in this is written as 1,040,000.
Yeah, here's the
yes.
question. I mean, if we need to have a plan for 21.6 million, and now here we only have a proposal for 1 million. So I mean, we have a huge gap to have the schedule. And
so there's the reason for that is not that we're only planning for 1 million. The plan that we bring forward to the board is going to be for the full amount of the program, the 21.6 million. The reason the dollar amount for tomorrow night's meeting is listed at just over $1 million is because staff is requesting board approval to move forward with an additional allocation of sections. And the reason that we are asking for board approval to move forward with that in what I would describe as a little bit out of sequence with the rest of the plan is because our secondary schools are really in the final stages of building their master schedules as we speak and identifying their staffing needs. And the extra sections would be intended to provide expanded learning opportunities for students. And if we can allocate those sections earlier, then we're able to give our secondary schools the opportunity to really maximize how they plan for those in their master schedule. And that would leave of the 21.6 million, still 21 million. And then we have to take 10% of those dollars and allocate those for paraprofessional staffing because that is called for within the assembly bill.
Mhm.
And then the remainder of the dollars certainly would be things that would be up for discussion, input, collaboration on how we expend those dollars. So that's the difference between having the dollar amount at 1 million versus the 21.6 is because staff is requesting to help with the building of the master schedules that we have approval for some sections in advance. It doesn't mean that we couldn't add more sections later, but we want to equip our secondary administrators with the tools they need to maximize their master schedule.
So this is the immediate action that you are looking for, and then the rest will happen over time.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Sorry, Trustee Zhang.
But when we're going to see the detailed plan before the 15th?
You would see it before the 19th. Our next board meeting, I believe, is scheduled for May 19th. And so you would see the detailed plan in advance of that.
So when is a good time to talk about, I feel like we really need to beef up some summer program because to get students ready for the fall. And this is the time we can put the money into a good use. Besides those summer program, can we, hire some other third-party program? You see, instead of work with the FATA, that's one of the revenue. The other one is can we also hire some other program? Let's say tutoring program. Can we do that?
So to address both of those questions, trustees, saying yes, this would be a great time in our board meeting tomorrow to talk about those suggestions and solutions. The money can be expended over the next 2.5 years, Rais, is that correct? Apologies for putting you on the spot, but I think that's close to the timeline that we have.
That is correct, CJ.
Okay,
2.5 years.
And so what we're looking at is how do we expend those dollars over that period of time? Expanded learning opportunities in the summer would certainly be one of those things. In terms of who we contract with and for what services, I think we would be open to hearing all ideas, and then staff would have to analyze what the scope of work is and what time that work would be taking place and whether or not it has any connection to our current bargaining unit groups. But we can certainly expand and explore on those ideas and then give consideration for what steps might be needed to try and contract for services and how that relates to our bargaining units. And the reason I call that out in relation to our bargaining units is we do have an obligation under the EERA and our bargaining contracts to be cognizant of not contracting out bargaining unit work except for a few provisions that exist within the regulation. So we certainly have options, but we want to make sure that we're considering all those things as well.
Okay, but I think it's really important to look into that because let's see, today I had a seminar sponsored by SBAC. Is that right? SBAC or SBCA?
There's SBAC, which is SBAC,
Yeah.
and CSBA.
Yes, I think it's the, well, it's the board Community California. So whatever that short term
Yeah.
is.
CSBA.
They were suggesting actually, how to spend this, investing this money. Is also we can even, hire some outside California. So I think that certainly we can look into all areas. It's not restricted. We have to, if we are, we are short on staff working in the summer. I mean, we are obligated to the community to provide service in the summer before they get on, before they going back to the regular schedule. I think it's really important.
Yes, Trustee Zhang. And I think that's a great example. What you were saying there is that's part of the reason I said we want to explore it on every opportunity and idea, because some ideas may have different restrictions than others. What we do during the summer, may be very different. We already hire employees from outside of the school district to work our summer programs as it stands. And so when we look at contracting for a service, we have to do some analyzing of what is the service, when do we plan on offering it, and how does it connect to those things. And so not everything is restricted, but we just have to be cognizant about what our scope is, and a lot of the times it is permissible. So we just have to really discuss those options and consider them all, because we do have opportunities to utilize other services during certain times of the day or parts of the year.
We just want to bring it here shortly. I mentioned to you that about Galileo. I mean, can we look into whether we can open the facility? That's one thing. The other thing is, can we actually allow them, our kids, to take advantage of this? For example, Galileo, maybe not Galileo, some other program. So our kids can learn and also have fun. That's what I'm thinking. And that's another way we can invest for the summer. And kids can, have like learning while having fun. That's what I'm thinking.
Yes. In response to the renting of the facilities, I think we could certainly agendize that at our next meeting. Where we've been so far this year is we haven't been renting our indoor facilities because of COVID. We've been renting our outdoor facilities. And we certainly could look at shifting that now that we're in the orange tier, if the board felt like it was time to start renting some of our indoor facilities during the summer when they're not in use, because we do have facilities that may be open during the summer. And then I would ask Robbie, I think might be the best person to answer in terms of our past practice for facility use, because my first summer in Fremont was this summer, which we were in COVID. So
Yes.
I do know that a lot of districts will rent facilities out to private companies for certain things during the summer. And I don't know what our past practice here has been. Robbie, could you maybe give a description of that?
Yes. So we usually start the renting our facilities usually during the summertime, which is I think a day after school ends. And we open it up to the public. And Camp Galileo is one of them that rent our facility. There are some other programs out there with the city of Fremont that we have a contract with in regards to the ACES program, or the after school program. Right now, we are accepting outdoor facility rental requests. We tentatively mentioned to our community and to our facility users that it will be in the beginning of the school year that we will entertain indoor facilities.
In the beginning of the school year, so that means we're not going to open in the summer.
The indoor ones are not open, only outdoor.
Okay. So what would prevent us from looking into this? I mean, Stacey, you said that the board has voted to close the indoor facility. I don't know. Can we look into that? I mean, under which agreement or contract? The
Yeah,
reason I mentioned that is Galileo said that Palo Alto and other district has allowed them to run a program. So I think that, again, it's not their program, but it's just caught my attention. We can rent it out, get some revenue, and let's see, or even we can only, let's see, allow Fremont kids to come to take the program, and we can negotiate. Yes.
So the recommendation of the staff when we brought it forward to the board is to only open the outdoor. Now, if the board is willing to discuss about indoor facilities, we can bring forth an agenda item in regard on indoor facility rental.
Okay. Okay. All right. I would like to look into that.
Yes, so I think we should ask for this topic to be agendized so that we can have a discussion. And personally, I also feel that anything that we can do to mitigate learning loss in summer will go a long way to get fall started on the right foot. Otherwise, there are many students that are so far behind.
Now,
they'll be playing catch up next year.
I do want to mention that when we sent it out to our principals, the principals were very happy that we are only opening. They mentioned to me that they're happy that we're only opening facility rentals in August because of their time of looking at what the needs of the school. So I just want to let
Sure.
you
Yeah.
be aware
So
of that.
we don't want to make a decision here, right? But
Yes.
as something that Trustee Zhang is saying, and I also like the idea of doing more for the kids, right? So what are the choices? If this is so, tomorrow we can discuss some of that as part of this expanded learning opportunity, and the discussion about learning loss mitigation. And if this thing bubbles up, then we can have a discussion with the principals as well. Okay, so in the interest of time, let's move on. The next one is textbook adoption. Any question on this, Trustee Zhang?
No, I was having a conversation with CJ, and we calculate each book costs $175. So I thought that was pretty expensive. Because they said we have 15,000 students from K to 5. I think that's the description. And now you divide by the 2 million or something. I'm like, boy, that is expensive.
Now, is that one copy or 2 copy per student?
Yes, CJ, it's a 1 copy, right?
I will have to follow up with our CNI team to see what our practice here is on that. But in addition to the book in and of itself, there's a lot of other materials that come along with a textbook adoption. And so it's not always necessarily pricing down the total amount into just a per book expenditure, but I will certainly make sure that the staff has that answer for our meeting on Wednesday night, whether it's 1 book or 2.
Yeah, and the other question perhaps, CJ, we should ask is, when we buy these paper textbooks, do students have access to the online copy? So that a lot of students have learned to use the soft copy better than paper. So we should try to have that access as well.
Yes, and that is generally part of that price point. When we first started really looking at digital textbooks many years ago, everybody thought it would be a much more affordable outcome for districts, and the publishers across the state, I must have all joined together in unison and said, our digital books are going to be part of our program when you purchase the hard copy. So most adoptions these days come with a pretty expansive digital component, and they're part of that pricing. So we'll certainly make sure that that's covered as well.
Yeah, I mean, it takes a lot of effort to create. The content creation is expensive, right? And so I can justify some of that price, but you look at the same books sold in other countries are much cheaper. So we have to, if all the publishers stand up and say the same thing, then, you know, they are trying to maintain a price point that. Anyway, so enough said there. Okay, then moving on to Calpers medical plan review. Is this the one where we are trying to find alternatives as well, or is this just a review?
Yeah, so this was a direction from the board much earlier, I think even before I got here, in terms of asking staff to explore what other medical options there might be to provide our employees with benefits. And for anybody who may be watching in the audience, our employees purchase their benefits through their compensation that's provided directly to them. And that's actually something that was negotiated between the district and the employees many, many, many years ago. And there are a few districts that do it the same way we do. And as part of that review for this component, staff worked with Keenan and Associates, and Keenan and Associates are our insurance provider for our JPA. And they did an analysis of what our other options might be. They identified the San Mateo Medical Consortium as an option for us. And there are some potential savings for our employees, but this is only coming forward as a report, because in order to move from the Calpers model that we're under for benefits, we would have to reach negotiated agreements with our respective labor groups. And this is only coming forward as a report and an update. And it does connect to some of the conversations that we had around budget reduction time. In addition to providing some savings for our employees, there is a potential that the school district could see some savings in administrative fees in changing programs.
Right. As part of the budget discussion in January, this was one of the potential savings that we have on the table. Okay.
Correct.
So this would be good to discuss in the meeting tomorrow. Okay, then the next one, sunshine proposals. So there's no budget impact for that, so we can skip that here. And then approval for the interim associate superintendent. So is this the final number?
Yes.
Okay. And this is for the from now till when? What is the period covered in this?
The period is covered through the end of June is what we're anticipating, because we are anticipating, as you all know, and as our audience may know, that we are recruiting for an associate superintendent position to start July 1st. And so we've written this to be an agreement in place from May 5th, and that it would continue through the end of June, but we also wrote it in a way that allows us to go through the end of September if we needed to. But if we have an associate superintendent in place, then it would end at that time.
Okay, so this dollar amount, 54,000, is up to June.
Correct.
And you won't need additional board approval for the next 3 months, the way this thing is worded.
Correct.
Okay. Okay, so I mean, then, for the public, this is a 2-month amount, and there will be 2.5 times or 1.5 times more potentially if we are not able to recruit on time.
Correct.
Okay. Sounds good. Then the next one is for auditing services.
So this agenda item is for our auditors, and we had requests for proposals out, and we had 3 firms respond. And based on the process staff is recommending that we move forward with CWDL.
Right. And I suppose for whatever reasons we are being forced to make a change based on the bids we received, right? So,
Actually,
Correct.
we're not.
Go ahead, Robbie.
We're not being forced to because of our contract with our current auditor actually is ending for the audit year of fiscal year 2021. So we already have the our auditors for 5 years, and
mhm.
then just like what Superintendent Kamak mentioned is that we sent out an RFP, and only 3 proposals came in, and we interviewed those proposals.
Correct, correct. Yeah, I mean, the reason I use the word forced is because our current auditors did not submit a proposal, so we have to pick a different one.
Yes, that is true. There was they were not
Yeah.
able to submit one.
Yeah, it doesn't matter why, but they are not on the list. So, okay. And this amount for the last 5 years, was it similar, or did this amount go up compared to what we were paying to the current auditor?
So the dollar amount that was posted is a 3-year contract with an exception of 2.
Mhm.
So, but that the dollar amount is for 3 years. We actually save about a good $10,000 annually.
Compared to
Switching.
the previous one?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that was my question. So that's good. So,
Sorry, to clarify, do we get to $10,000 less or more for this
Uh,
new one?
It is less.
Oh, okay.
okay, so that's good that you negotiated better. Okay, and then so if it is less, we are not getting any less service, right? It covers exactly everything that we needed before. Or,
Because this is a new auditor, we believe during our interview process that we're going to get the same service.
okay.
Now, always with a new vendor, it's either you with the pricing you get less, or you cannot really say.
That's true, but the scope of services are listed here, and that covers everything that we wanted.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Then moving on to 1510. This is the inspection services for Hopkins Middle School. So Kelly, is this just on standard? Anything extraordinary here?
There's nothing extraordinary. Actually, the next 3 items are
Yeah,
standard, construction related service contracts. And this is just a result of the solicitation that we had. Premier Inspection Services was the apparent low bidder. And we are now requesting the board to allow us to award the contract to execute and get the work started.
Okay, so I mean, if you look at all of these 3 items as a group, in terms of the dollar amounts here, I have no reference point, right? So these are what you would expect. Is it higher or lower than?
Yes, these are actually falling within the budget. So if you look in the agenda item, I stated what the overall budget is for the inspection services. So for this particular item, Premier Inspection Services was for $543,840. We have an overall budget for inspection services for the entire project of $1,163,870. So this falls clearly within our established budget. And there are going to be some other specialty services that will absorb the difference. But for the bulk of the inspection services that we're looking for, this was a reasonable and acceptable amount for us to have budgeted for this project.
Okay. Now, Hopkins, we are just getting started, right? So
Correct.
Of the money spent so far. So for the community, we should make it to a strong case of where we actually came under budget overall, right?
Yes, we are. I'm not going to say that too loud because something always happens where we have a bomb that goes off that doesn't allow us to stay in budget. But right now, we are tracking and trending to be within our budget for this project.
Okay, sounds good. Trustee Zhang, any questions? Otherwise, we'll skip these 3 items. And
Oh, yeah, actually, I do have a question on the following one. I think the second one, 15.11.
Mhm.
And so interestingly, this one has so many bidders, 1, 2, whatever, 6 of 7. And the price range are very different from the one that you recommend. The first one, Consolidate Engineering Laboratory. And then you got somewhere else on the bottom, it's 77. I guess maybe we should not look at that. Maybe, but even
Well,
you
you
look
have to understand, even though the prices, of course, are wide ranging, when we looked at evaluating the companies, we looked at how responsive they were to the actual scope of work that we specified. So even though we have these companies that are listed here that gave us a price, a lot of them were not qualified because they would not be able to provide us the service that we specifically asked for. And so Consolidated Engineers actually kind of went down the checklist of all the things that we required and gave us an actual cost for those services. So that's why they were considered to be the best and most comprehensive. Even though Achievement Engineering, they gave us $77,000, but they were only going to give us 3 out of the 7 things that we needed to have service provided for. So for us, we felt it was not, wise to go ahead and award to them when we know that they would be changing, providing us with cost proposals later on that would not meet the needs of the project.
So if
I
you,
see. Mm-hmm.
sorry, Trustee Zhang, will you finish?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, go ahead, Vivek.
So my question is, I don't know if you'll have the information here, but if I typically look at the first number and the third number and see what are the, so what would be the trade-offs to pick the third one? Because from a score perspective, it's like 7.77 versus 8.26. Not too far apart, but there's like 100K or 20% difference. So what would we be missing if you pick them?
Yeah, that's my question too, Kelly. Actually, I did Google
I'm sorry,
all this.
my screen kind of froze.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's my question too, because I actually did Google those companies. And even the one that Consolidated Engineering Laboratory, and their Google, stars is like not as good as let's see, the third one. So I just wondering that, when you review them and your, I think you have this rating star, and how do you come with this? And I guess we have worked with this company, but have we worked with, let's see, the third one, Signet Testing Laboratory? I mean, is this company provide full service as well?
Yes, but as I said, there are many factors that went into the scoring and the ranking of these companies. All of the companies that you guys see here are reputable, licensed, bonded, insured, very capable of performing the work. But in terms of their responsiveness to the RFP that we actually solicited their services for, they were rated based on those responses. And a lot of them right now, there are capacity issues that have to be addressed in terms of, do they have available staffing? Are they proposing a full-time person versus a part-time person? Do they have the capacity or a partner to do specialty testing that we require for some of our geotechnical stuff? And then 2, they had to supply references, and we did check their references, and that was also rated and ranked as well. So it's a very comprehensive process that was, gone through. And there was probably a committee of, I believe, 4 or 5 people from various offices within the district and within the construction management firms that reviewed this information. So it's not a one size fits all or only money or only resources. It was a very comprehensive list that we had gone through to evaluate these firms based on what they submitted. And I hope that answered your question, and please let me know if it didn't.
I think you're answering the question where you're just looking at the I mean, if you have a checklist, right? I don't know how many things are there. So between the first one and the third one, the construction testing services, there's a 20% price difference. So is in the report, I have not opened the PDF. Do you actually lay out what the differences were? Or is that outside the scope of?
I would actually have to get back to you on that because I do not have all of that information in front of me. So I would hate to misspeak and not tell you the correct information, but I do know that there are, if you'd like, I can send you guys the notes and the score sheets and the evaluation metrics that we used to evaluate these firms.
Right.
And, you know, I'll be honest with you, a lot of firms, depending upon how, and this is a terrible term, how hungry they are to get the work,
Mhm.
they shave their prices to, you know, basically qualify. And so many times you do see a 10, 15 to 20% difference. But when you start seeing, you know, a significant 30, 40, 50, 60%, that's when we begin to question, you know, really what is that number made of? Because we know what the scope of work is.
Mhm.
And based on historical data of the previous projects that either these firms have worked on or in similar size and scope, we then say, hey, you know what, they're missing something here, and maybe we need to dig a little further. And in many instances, we do call them. We have conferences post bid to make sure that, hey, have you covered all of the information? Is there any updates or corrections you'd like to make? Any clarifications? And so there's probably about 9 or 10 different things that we evaluate them
Sure.
on, and it's based on a, you know, a scale of 1 to 10, and all these different things are handled. And one of the things too that we've been very focused on over the last year is making sure that these firms are local, and if they are a small business or a you know, 5 county or five area zip codes surrounding Fremont, if they have an office, there's a, we call it the small local enterprise business preference
Mhm.
discount points. And so a lot will make the difference in their ranking as well as their pricing. So that has been a focus that
Sure.
we've been
Uh,
trying to make more apparent. So
Kelly, because we are picking the highest bidder, I think it's good to have that level of detail for this one. From a dollar perspective, so if you can get the comparison of the top three, whatever checklist that you used, that will give us the right level of detail.
okay,
Okay,
I'll be happy to provide that to you guys by tomorrow.
sure, sounds good.
Okay, thank you. Yeah. All right.
And the next one, it seems like you split the work across the two vendors.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's a good strategy, right? You don't put all eggs into one basket. So Kelly.
You end up paying more.
Well, part of our
really?
strategy in this is, part of the strategy on this particular one is that, you know, our group run projects are our last big major sort of scope of work. And we have so many great, talented design firms that are very capable, very competitive, and very willing to work with us. And one of the things that I discussed with Associate Superintendent Battle as well as Kevin Arthur is that, you know, a lot of times when you have a variety of skill sets, we have an opportunity to actually have more creativity in how things are done. And so we made a collective decision to go ahead and split the work. And these firms are relatively small, they're local, and they have not had much work with Fremont. So this becomes an opportunity for them to actually work with the district, give us their best, and also see what level of creativeness comes out of, you know, their experience with the scope of work that they have to do for us. So that was the impetus to do that. And also it allowed us to also drive the price in terms of the cost of the fees down, because of course, the larger the scope of work, the larger the fee base. And we found that when we split it, we got about a 20 to 25% reduction in fees. I think that it was a success in that sense. So that was the reason behind that.
Okay, well, I see that if you had just gone with the DLR group, then it would be lower amount than what we are choosing to pay across the two. But I agree that is for design, especially having multiple perspectives makes sense. So it's not it's that the 1.5 million number is still in the middle of the range, or closer to the bottom end of the range of this whole thing, right? So it's okay. Any further questions, Trustee Zhang?
No, no.
Okay. So we are exactly at 6 o'clock. Good
Well
discussion.
done.
Good time management. All
Yeah.
right.
Okay, thank you. Then we can adjourn here. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you, trustees. Thank you, staff. Everybody take care.
Thank you.